So this is like a Stonehenge area.
Yeah.
That this is just their pretty much the folk tales behind the stones, how they came to be.
Right. And more than likely, I mean, this is a region that during the last ice age would have had glaciers down to this this area, which could have taken all these large stones down.
Yeah.
That's probably the more likely story.
Gotcha. And you being obviously the emperor of glacial formings and the ice age.
Exactly.
The all-knowing, powerful Christian.
It is deemed, I shall pontify wonderful opinions.
Pontificate.
Yes.
Yeah.
Just call me the pontiff of
the pontifier.
Ice Age.
Yeah. So, question about this Stonehenge. Does it have any, you know how like with pyramids, there's something weird where like all pyramids pretty much have this weird like set of threes, or there's a lot of weird correlations with the pyramids, and how they kind of are. There was certain areas that were mapped out the exact same way, even though they were in different locations on the earth. Right. Is there any kind of weird lore with that connecting this to the other Stonehenge?
Not necessarily to this part of the Ukraine. I think when we get into some other areas nearby, and you know, the next part, reiteration, I don't know what you call it, the next parts of this
next chapter.
Yeah, the next
Let's
chapter.
call it that.
The next episode.
Yeah, coming up on part 2.
Yeah, paranormal. I don't know what it was, but you know what I mean. It's,
you gave it the college try. It's
yeah,
all right.
yeah. There'll be some connections made.
Yeah. So there's no actual connection with the original Stonehenge.
Not like the ley lines and
anything like that. Okay, gotcha.
I'll read the next part.
This is gonna go great. Yeah.
I got this.
I got this next one. Don't worry. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
The Anthony Caves.
That reminds me of the Timothy Hay. I don't know why. It's a Me Without You song. Chernihiv?
Yeah, Chernihiv. The St. Anthony Caves seem to be possibly the beginning of the town of Chernihiv. St. Anthony came to the town in 1069. Sometimes it's hard to imagine 1069 there being saints already.
Yeah.
But then again, the Middle Ages weren't too long after. It's just hard to imagine that the religion back in the year 1000.
Yeah. Yeah, it's one of those things. Like, we have a limited grasp on exactly what we can picture in our mind.
Yeah.
You know, movies and whatnot help, but even they are probably far off from what the reality of the situation was. So we're just putting modern spins on what we believe things were.
Well, it's crazy, too, because 1069 is 1,000 years after most of the important biblical events that the Americans take into consideration.
Yeah.
So 1,000 years is a long time after that. And here we are another 1,000 years, and now we're lost with our perception of time. It's really hard to grasp how long ago that was. And
it's hard to grasp a lot of things these days.
Yeah.
The world's pretty funky.
Yeah. How long ago it was, but how it was really just yesterday.
In the great span of time?
Yeah.
Sure.
Anthony, he liked the area as it seemed peaceful. Anthony dug a cave for his... St. Anthony would dig a cave for his...
Put some respect on that name, St. Anthony.
St. Anthony dug his cave for solitude and prayers. This is what made him a saint later on, I think. Not anybody would just dig a cave.
For solitude and prayers,
yeah. In time, this became a large underground monastery. Many monks would move into the area. In the 12th century, the monks would be attacked by the Tartars, who followed them into the caves.
Looking for fish sticks. No.
Yeah. Yeah, you know.
Classic stuff.
Yeah, it has to go with it.
Yeah.
I like that.
The Tartars, yeah.
Tartar. So they followed him into the caves, and the monks disappeared without a trace and got away.
Do we think it's some kind of like underground system that led to a different side of the mountain?
Supposedly, there was only one entrance to kind of protect them. But
that also kind of screws you if you think about it. That's not as much protection. Better to have 2, 3.
It's to me, it sounds like the monks would be like, "Oh, we only have one way in and out," but they actually have a different way.
Yeah.
Or
that's the smart move.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or they were just so spiritually touched that they were able to magically disappear from this underground monastery.
Prayer.
With the help of,
their higher power.
Solitude and prayers.
And monks are pretty wise folk.
Yeah.
Based on everything I've ever seen and read. So
yeah. Whether it's a Buddhist monk or a Christian monk.
It's understandable. Yeah. The bald-headed guys.
Yeah. With the arrow on the top of their head. Oh, no, that's Avatar.
I think that's the last Airbender, but sure.
Oh, yeah. So, good call. Okay, in the 1960s, archaeologists working the site noticed the smell of incense, strange sounds, and even the sight of a transparent figure in a black cassock that they called the Black Monk. I put Avenger there just because when I said the Black Monk, it felt like a superhero name.
Mm.
I don't know if that's, I mean, obviously the Black Monk would be like a Rasputin type person.
Sure.
That was a evil person that the Avengers fought against. Because of the unexplainable energy in the area, some have theorized a meteorite has been buried in the area from many years before. The seat of Haldane. If you get it, you get it. You don't get it, do you?
It sounds like something from Game of Thrones.
Ah, good one.
Well, how do I know how to I reference these things without knowing anything?
Because that's not even a popular name. That's like a personal favorite in Game of Thrones of the houses. But
I just need very small context clues to grasp a situation.
Very
Christian.
Impressive.
I'm very adept, yes. Hey, everyone, come see how great I am. No.
I'm actually, like I said, that's an obscure house in Game of Thrones.
Yeah. And that was a reference to Anchorman again, I think. Come see how good I look. I think that is Anchorman.
Yeah, I've never seen it. So there's a place in the city of Dnipro where Satanists, Scott's favorite, are said to gather to perform their dark rituals.
What else would they do when they gather?
Yeah.
They said to gather to grab their adult coloring books and have a good old time. Yeah.
For these Satanists. Satanist book club, but it's romance.
It's romance?
Yeah.
We're talking like sex magic.
No, in this book club, you cannot have anything supernatural. It's just got to be like, they like Fabio on the cover of their. Do you believe me?
I feel like you're making this up. Yeah. I was like, I can't fathom a world where this is accurate. It's like they mentioned Fabio? Weird. Tell me more, though. I'm intrigued.
Okay, so we're in Dnipro with the Satanists, and they're at an old abandoned hospital to perform their dark rituals. The place opened in 1910, but being a different time as far as medical technology goes, up to 80% of the patients died. So the locals got angry and felt the family and friends were being killed by the doctors. The Soviets tried to make the place look communist functional, but like most things Soviet, this would crack and break.
I don't know why, but communist functional sounds like a design style. Like, we're going for communist functional. I know shabby chic is really in right now, but communist functional is actually a lot more of our desired taste.
Which is hilarious to me because I just made that up for there. Because I'm like, this sounds fun.
Somewhere in Russia, there's a Chip and Joanne Gaines that are doing things not in vintage and rustic, but communist functional.
Yeah. Pretty soon it'll be communist functional Ukraine edition.
Yeah.
Which is dark on a whole nother level.
Classic.
So if repairs were needed, they would be left unfixed by frightful repairmen who claimed to be accosted by balls of light and seemingly collapsing stairs. It was later discovered that the hospital sat atop a 15th century cemetery. Also strange, as there was not a town there at that time. So where did all these dead bodies come from?
So is it kind of like, you got out here you get like Native American land, like burial grounds and stuff that you're not supposed to tamper with.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of like that, the European equivalent of that.
Yeah, basically these people were already buried there from a civilization that
long before.
Yeah, that nobody remembered or anything like that. So,
but they utterly were disrespected when you put those stairs up.
Yeah.
Not cool.
You remember we once had a story or an idea of stairs to nowhere.
Yeah, we're well aware of stores to nowhere too. What do you think Bed Bath & Beyond is? But we should actually make that video at some point. That would probably be a good video to throw in. That's a riveting story. I love the stairs to nowhere.
I can't tell if it's real or not, but I love it too. It's like Twilight Zone.
Yeah, but that's also your general feeling for everything we talk about. So
this one's a little different though. This one even believers are like, we're not really sure this is true, but it's such a cool story. Yeah. And like I said, for me, who grew up on the Twilight Zone reruns, that were amazing and like changed the way I looked at the world. And then later on, as I would start reading, everybody would talk about, all the writers of the stuff I read would talk about Twilight Zone because it changed the way.
To impactful.
Yeah, that nuclear family had a dark side. And it was exposed on the Twilight Zone. Now, years later, we know every good and bad people have a light and dark side. You know what I'm saying? But back then,
how about you step down from that soapbox for a minute?
All right, let's get into some bathing then.
Oh, please.
We recently mentioned one Elizabeth of Bathory on the pod. Here we have a similar story coming out of ruins of a fortress that can be...
you.